The HR director's office had a buzzing fluorescent light, the kind of faint, electrical death rattle you only notice when the silence is heavy enough to crush you. I sat in the guest chair, the low one, deliberately chosen so you have to look up at the person behind the desk, and watched Margaret Collins shuffle papers she clearly hadn't read. Her lips moved slightly as her eyes scanned. A tell. She was looking for the right scripted line. I didn't need to look. I already knew what the papers said. On the other side of the frosted glass wall, I could hear the open-plan office humming. Phones ringing. The clatter of the espresso machine. Someone laughing. Normal Tuesday sounds in a place I'd spent 14 years building into something functional. Margaret cleared her throat. She didn't look at me. So, Eleanor, as part of our organizational synergy realignment, I almost smiled. Synergy realignment. 3 years at the company, and she still didn't know what our products actually did. We've decided to pivot the operational excellence division toward a more dynamic leadership structure. She finally looked up. Forced eye contact. The kind of look people give when they're about to deliver bad news they've practiced in the mirror. I waited. We're promoting from within, she continued, rushing now. Fresh perspective. New energy. We feel that Jason represents the forward-facing vision we need to optimize our bandwidth utilization moving forward. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 47 years old. For the last 14 years and 3 months, to be exact, I'd been the senior operations manager at Ethelred Logistics in the Richmond, Virginia headquarters. I managed the entire East Coast distribution compliance framework. I built the Meridian Compliance Dashboard from scratch, which reduced reporting errors by 67% in the first year. I designed the Apex client retention system that kept our top 20 accounts at 94% retention for 6 consecutive years, through 2 recessions and a merger. I personally oversaw the implementation of the freight optimization protocol that saved the company $2.4 million annually in cross-border shipping inefficiencies. I hadn't taken a full weekend off since 2019. I'd missed my daughter's middle school graduation because a client in Savannah had a custom seizure at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I'd built systems that ran so smoothly, upper management forgot they existed. That was the point. My job was to make the chaos invisible. And now Margaret Collins was sitting there, telling me they were giving my department to Jason Pembroke. Jason Pembroke. Age 31. Nephew of the Chief Financial Officer. Hired 18 months earlier as a Strategic Initiatives Associate, a title we invented because he had no qualifications for any real job. He spent his first 6 months walking around with a leather notebook he never wrote in, asking people what synergize meant. Not joking. He genuinely didn't know. I once watched him, during a system outage, ask the IT director if we could just restart the cloud. He wore suits that cost more than my monthly salary, but looked like he'd slept in them. His tie was always too short. He pronounced logistics with a hard G, logistics *, and thought compliance was a personality trait. I'd trained him. Of course I had. For 3 months, I sat with him in my office, walking him through the Meridian protocols, explaining why the Apex system flagged certain accounts, showing him the freight optimization triggers. He took no notes. He scrolled through his phone during explanations. At the end of our sessions, he'd say things like, "Great, so just send me the PowerPoint and I'll review it later." He never reviewed it. He couldn't. He didn't know what questions to ask. 3 weeks ago, I'd submitted my formal application for the Director of Operational Excellence position, the role I'd essentially been performing for 6 years. I'd included a 12-page portfolio of systems built, metrics improved, crises averted. I'd listed every quantified achievement. I'd attached recommendation letters from 3 vice presidents. I'd also, quietly, started documenting. Not because I expected this. Because I'd been in corporate America long enough to know that hope is not a strategy. Margaret was still talking. Something about transition support and Jason values your institutional knowledge and we hope you'll be a team player during this exciting new chapter. I watched her mouth move. I noticed the slight sweat at her hairline. The way her fingers tapped the edge of the desk. She knew this was wrong. She was doing it anyway. "Margaret," I said quietly. She stopped mid-sentence. Relieved, I think, to have the script interrupted. Is there a reason? She blinked. A reason? For Jason. Over me. I kept my voice calm. Curious, even. I'd like to understand the rationale. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Well, Eleanor, it's about fresh energy. Jason brings a different perspective. He's very agile. He thinks outside the box. We feel he can really leverage our core competencies into new market verticals. I nodded slowly. I see. She looked encouraged. Right. And obviously, we need you to bring him up to speed on the day-to-day. Just for a few weeks. A knowledge transfer period. He'll rely heavily on your expertise while he finds his footing. In a role I'd been excelling at for over a decade. Of course, I said. Happy to help. The relief on her face was almost pathetic. Oh, wonderful. That's exactly the attitude we were hoping for. Jason will be so grateful. I stood up. The chair was indeed very low. I looked down at her anyway. Is there anything else, Margaret? She shook her head, already reaching for the next file. No. That's it. We'll announce the transition at the all-hands next week. Thank you, Eleanor. This is the right move for everyone. I walked out of her office. The fluorescent light in the hallway buzzed louder. I passed Sarah from accounting at the water cooler. She gave me a small, tight smile. She knew. Everyone knew. That's the thing about offices, news moves faster than memos. I walked back to my cubicle. 14 years, and I'd never asked for a corner office. I didn't need one. I needed systems that worked. I needed people who did their jobs. I needed to go home at night knowing the East Coast distribution network wasn't going to catch fire because someone forgot to file a customs form. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, pulled up the email folder I'd labeled Pembroke Training. 3 months of emails. Every question he'd asked. Every explanation I'd given. Every time he'd said, send me the deck, and never opened it. I scrolled through. Read a few. Smiled. Then I opened a new email. To Jason Pembroke. CC Margaret Collins, CFO Alan Pembroke, VP of Operations Diane Reeves, VP of Client Services Marcus Webb, entire Operations Division, distribution list attached, entire East Coast compliance team, entire Ethelred logistics staff, all 482 employees. Subject: Knowledge Transfer Protocol / going forward. I paused. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Outside my cubicle, I could hear Jason's voice. He was 2 rows over, talking to someone about monetizing the workflow bandwidth. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Loud enough to be impressive if you didn't understand that nothing he just said meant anything. I thought about the weekend I'd missed at the beach with my daughter. The night my husband cooked dinner alone again because a shipment in Norfolk had paperwork problems. The 14 years of showing up early, staying late, fixing things before they broke, making the chaos invisible. I started typing. If my story resonates with you, make sure to like and subscribe. I share workplace strategy and corporate analysis every week that might just change how you navigate your career. ****. Jason's laugh echoed through the cubicle walls. Loud, confident, completely unearned. I kept typing. The email took me 22 minutes. It was thorough, professional, meticulously documented. And when I hit send, I watched the little progress bar fill across the screen, and I thought about something my father told me once. Never set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. The fluorescent light buzzed. I leaned back in my chair. And I waited. What Jason Pembroke didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd already written that email 3 months earlier. Not the exact words, but the strategy behind it. The preparation. The quiet, methodical work of making myself indispensable while simultaneously building the off-ramp that would expose exactly how indispensable I'd been. 3 years earlier, when I'd finished building the Meridian Compliance Dashboard, I'd added something to the code that wasn't in any project plan. A small flag in the back end. Nothing malicious. Nothing illegal. Just a simple protocol that logged every manual override, every system intervention, every time a human hand touched the automated workflow. I called it the audit trail enhancement. Sounded boring enough that no one ever asked about it. But it meant that for 3 years, I'd had a complete record of every single correction, every late-night fix, every crisis I'd averted before anyone knew there was a crisis. The Apex client retention system? I'd built that with nested permissions. Full access for me. Read-only for everyone else. Not because I was territorial, because I knew that if someone without the technical understanding started fiddling with the client scoring algorithms, they'd tank a relationship worth millions before lunch. I'd documented this. Repeatedly. In memos. In meetings. In the training manual I'd written for Jason that he'd never opened. The freight optimization protocol ran on a logic chain I'd designed personally. It cross-referenced customs databases, fuel pricing trends, and historical shipping patterns to make routing decisions in real time. What no one knew was that the protocol had a failsafe. A kill switch, essentially. If it didn't receive a weekly confirmation code from my personal workstation, it defaulted to safe mode. Safe mode meant slower routes. More expensive routes. Routes that still worked barely, but cost the company roughly $180,000 more per week. I'd never used the failsafe. I'd never needed to. But I'd built it on a Tuesday afternoon 3 years ago, after watching a different incompetent manager get promoted over someone who actually did the work. I'd sat at my desk, eaten a sad salad from the cafeteria, and thought, if they ever try that with me, I want to watch the ship sink in slow motion. I'd been called paranoid by people who didn't understand the difference between paranoia and preparation. 2 days after my conversation with Margaret Collins, I was sitting on my back porch drinking coffee at 9:15 on a Thursday morning. The first weekday in 14 years, I hadn't been at my desk by 7:30. My husband had already left for work. The house was quiet. The birds were loud. It felt obscene, this much peace. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 47 seconds long. Jason's voice, pitched higher than usual, trying to sound casual and failing. Hey, Eleanor, Jason here. Hope you're enjoying some time off. Listen, quick question. The Meridian system is flagging some invoices from the Norfolk shipment, and I can't figure out why it's rejecting them. I tried to override it, but it's not taking my credentials. Probably just a permissions thing. If you could shoot me a quick text on how to fix it, that'd be great. Thanks. I deleted the voicemail without saving it. The Norfolk shipments were always tricky. Canadian Border Customs had updated their documentation requirements 6 months ago. I'd built the flag into Meridian specifically to catch invoices that used the old format. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Jason just didn't know what it was designed to do. At noon, another call. This time from a number I recognized, the main office line. I let it go. At 2:15, a text message from a number I didn't have saved. Hey Eleanor, can you call when you get this? Meridian down, clients getting errors. Urgent. I saved the number under Jason Pembroke and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. By 5 p.m., there were 7 missed calls. 3 from Jason. 2 from the main office line. 1 from Margaret Collins. 1 from Diane Reeves, the VP of Operations, the woman who'd written one of my recommendation letters. Diane's voicemail was different. Shorter. More careful. Eleanor, it's Diane. Hope you're well. I'm sure you're enjoying the break. When you have a moment, could you give me a call? Nothing urgent. Just a quick question about some client notifications. Thanks. Nothing urgent. Diane was too professional to panic on voicemail. But I knew her well enough to hear what she wasn't saying. The notifications weren't going out. Clients were seeing errors. Meridian was doing exactly what I'd trained it to do, refusing to process non-compliant invoices, and no one in the building knew how to fix it because no one had ever needed to. I'd always fixed it before anyone noticed it was broken. I texted Diane back at 6:02 p.m. Hi Diane. Enjoying some family time. We'll check in next week. She replied immediately, of course. No rush. Enjoy. Professional. Kind. A little worried. I smiled and made myself a gin and tonic. By the end of the week, the tone had changed. Friday afternoon, my phone rang at 4:47. Jason again. I answered. Not because I wanted to talk to him, because I wanted to hear it in his voice. Eleanor. Hey. Thank God. He was breathless. Listen, we've got a situation. The whole Meridian system is locked up. Clients can't access their dashboards. Compliance is freaking out. I tried calling IT, but they said something about backend protocols, and he stopped. Breathed. Can you just tell me how to reset it? I waited 2 beats. Let the silence hang. Jason, I said calmly. Did you look at the training manual I sent you? Silence. The manual? Section 4. Meridian Troubleshooting Protocols. It's all in there. He stumbled. I can't find it. The file. I think it got deleted in the transition. Can you just? I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Unfortunately, I don't have access to my work files anymore. IT deactivated my credentials on Tuesday. More silence. Longer this time. But you remember, right? You built it. Just tell me. I almost laughed. Just tell me. 14 years of institutional knowledge, reduced to a 5-minute phone call. I'd love to help, Jason. But I'm not comfortable providing technical guidance without proper documentation protocols in place. For liability reasons. I let that land. You understand. Liability. His voice cracked. It's just a system reset. Is it? I asked. Mild, curious. Because you said it's locked up. That could be a permissions cascade. Or a data corruption issue. Or a protocol mismatch with the new Canadian customs requirements. If I tell you the wrong fix and something breaks permanently, that's on me. I'm not in a position to take that risk. He didn't know what to say. I could hear him breathing. Fast. Shallow. I'll send you the manual again, I offered. When I have a moment. When will that be? Hard to say. Family obligations. I hung up. The manual I'd sent him originally was 147 pages. It included step-by-step instructions for every possible Meridian malfunction. It also included, on page 93, a detailed explanation of the permission structure, including the fact that only my credentials could perform certain overrides. I'd highlighted that section, bolded it, put it in a box with a warning label. He'd never opened the file. The read receipt had never come back. I knew because I'd checked. The following Tuesday, the first client loss hit. Hargrove Manufacturing. A $2.3 million annual contract. They'd been with us for 9 years. I'd personally managed their account for the last 6. Their logistics coordinator, a woman named Patricia who'd been in the industry since before I was born, called me directly at home. Eleanor. Her voice was flat. What the hell is going on over there? I listened for 10 minutes while she described the chaos. Invoices rejected for no reason. Shipping delays that cost them a penalty with their largest retailer. Compliance documents submitted late to customs. A phone call with Jason that she described as the most embarrassing hour of my professional life. He asked me what a harmonized tariff code was, she said. Then he asked if we could just not use them. I closed my eyes, savoring it. Patricia, I'm so sorry. I'm no longer in that role. Silence. I heard, she said quietly. That's why I'm calling. I wanted you to know, before I made the final decision, that this isn't about you. It's about them. If you ever land somewhere else, call me first. I thanked her, told her I understood. Meant every word. The next morning, an email from Diane Reeves landed in my personal inbox. No company letterhead. No formal tone. Just, Eleanor. Hargrove terminated their contract this morning. Jason was in the meeting. He didn't know who Patricia was. He asked if she was the decision maker. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Is there anything you can do? I read it 3 times. Thought about Diane. Good manager. Fair person. Stuck in a system she didn't design, reporting to people she couldn't control. I typed my response. Diane. I'm sorry about Hargrove. Patricia is a professional. She made the right call. To answer your question, yes. There are things I can do, but I won't. Not because I don't respect you. Because the only way this stops happening is if it happens enough times that someone upstairs asks why. You know where to find me if that day comes. An hour later, I understand. Take care of yourself. 2 weeks in, and the ship was listing visibly. Another client loss, smaller this time, $850,000, but the phone calls were getting louder. Compliance rating dropped from 98% to 74% in 11 days. The had defaulted to safe mode after missing its third weekly confirmation code. Shipping costs were up $540,000 in 2 weeks. Not catastrophic yet, but noticeable. The kind of numbers that make finance directors cancel meetings to stare at spreadsheets. My phone was a constant vibration now. Jason. Margaret. Alan Pembroke himself, Jason's uncle, the CFO, the man who'd approved his hire. I didn't answer any of them, but I listened to the voicemails. Jason's had devolved from panicked to almost plaintive. Eleanor, please. I'll do anything. Just tell me what I'm missing. I didn't realize how much you, please just call me. I saved that one. On a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after my conversation with Margaret, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. A personal Gmail account. The subject line, please read. I opened it. Eleanor. This is Jason. I'm using my personal email because I don't know if you're blocking work addresses. I don't blame you if you are. I know I wasn't good at this job. I know I should have paid attention when you were training me. I know I should have read the manual. I know a lot of things now that I didn't know then. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for the team. For Diane, who's getting killed in meetings. For the people in compliance who are working weekends because of me. For the clients who trusted us. Whatever you want, whatever it takes, name it. I'll make it happen. Just please help. I read it twice. Almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But here's the thing about almost. It doesn't change the math. I typed my reply. Short. Final. Jason. I appreciate the email. The answer is no. Not because I'm angry. Not because I want to watch you fail. Because if I step in now, nothing changes. You learn nothing. They learn nothing. And the next time someone like me gets pushed aside for someone like you, the same thing happens all over again. This isn't personal. It's structural. Good luck. I hit send. Closed my laptop. Walked into the kitchen where my husband was making dinner on time for once and poured myself a glass of wine. The phone buzzed on the counter. I ignored it. Before I tell you what happened next, you might be wondering, didn't she worry about burning bridges? About legal repercussions? About never working in the industry again? That's exactly what I'll cover in next week's video. The difference between burning bridges and controlling the narrative and how to know which one you're doing. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. 3 weeks in, and the dominoes were falling in exactly the order I'd imagined. The first domino was Meridian itself. Without weekly authentication from my credentials, the system's deep-level protocols had begun locking sequentially. Not dramatically, nothing crashed. It just slowed. Reports that used to generate in seconds now took hours. Client dashboards refreshed intermittently. The automated flagging system started sending duplicate alerts to the compliance team, who were already working weekends trying to manually process what the system used to handle automatically. I knew because Sarah from accounting texted me. We'd worked together for 11 years. She wasn't asking for help, just checking in. But between the lines, I could read it. Asterisk, you wouldn't believe the chaos here. Jason asked me today if we could reboot the fiscal year. I'm not kidding, asterisk. I laughed out loud. Saved the text. The second domino was the freight optimization protocol. Safe mode meant slower routes, yes. But safe mode also meant the system stopped cross-referencing the informal exception lists I'd built over years of relationship management. Certain carriers got preferential routing because they'd never failed a customs inspection. Certain ports had unofficial capacity agreements that weren't in any contract. The protocol didn't know any of that now. It just saw data. Optimized for cost on paper, not reliability in reality. A shipment out of Charleston sat on the dock for 3 extra days because the protocol chose a cheaper carrier that didn't have the right relationship with the longshoreman's local. The client penalty was $47,000. The client's client penalty was $210,000. The phone calls escalated to legal within 48 hours. The third domino was Jason himself. He left me a voicemail on a Tuesday afternoon. His voice was different now, not panicked, not pleading. Something harder underneath. Asterisk Eleanor, this is Jason. I need you to understand something. The company is reviewing your actions prior to departure. There are concerns about system access, about documentation you may have removed, about intentional obstruction. If you want to avoid legal involvement, I strongly suggest you return my calls. Asterisk. I played it twice. Smiled both times. Then I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Personal Legal. Inside was a subfolder called Pembroke Training Complete. Inside that were 147 files. Every email. Every training session summary I'd ever sent him. Every read receipt that never came back. Screenshots of his responses or lack thereof. A document I'd created called Training Completion Status that showed, in color-coded detail, exactly which materials he'd never opened. Also in that folder, a letter from an employment attorney I'd retained 6 months ago after watching Jason's uncle get appointed to the board. The letter outlined, in careful legal language, the concept of constructive termination, the pattern of being passed over despite qualifications, the hostile work environment created by promoting an unqualified family member over experienced staff, the documented refusal to engage with training materials. I didn't need to threaten them with it. I just needed them to know it existed. I forwarded the folder to my personal email. Then I called my attorney. Just a heads up, I said when she answered. You might get a call from Ethelred's legal department. They're exploring whether to threaten me. She laughed. Want me to send the letter preemptively? Not yet. Let them dig first. Makes the hole deeper. Eleanor, you're terrifying in the most professional way possible. Thank you. I try. By week 5, the hole was visible from space. Diane called me on a Sunday evening. Not email. Call. Personal cell. Eleanor. Her voice was tired. I'm sorry to bother you at home. You're not bothering me, Diane. What's going on? She exhaled. Long, heavy. Where do I start? We've lost 4 more clients. Total contract value now just under $8 million. The compliance rating dropped to 61% this week. The free protocol is hemorrhaging money. Finance estimates $1.2 million in excess costs so far. And Jason. She stopped. And Jason. He sent an email to the entire operations team yesterday. Said anyone who'd worked closely with you needed to submit to an interview with HR to determine if you'd sabotage systems before departure. Her voice curdled on the quote. Half the team is ready to quit. The other half is talking to attorneys. I said nothing. Let her fill the silence. Eleanor, I know you don't owe us anything. I know how they treated you. But I need to ask, is there a way out of this? Any way at all? I considered it. Really considered it. Diane had never done me wrong. She'd written that recommendation letter. She'd fought for my promotion in meetings I wasn't in. She was caught in the same dysfunctional system, just higher up the ladder. There's a way out, I said quietly. But it's not through me fixing things. Then what? It's through them admitting they made a mistake. Publicly. And then getting out of the way while the people who actually know what they're doing fix it. Silence. Jason won't do that. No, he won't. But his uncle might, if the board starts asking the right questions. Another long pause. When Diane spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. The board meeting is Tuesday. They've called an emergency session. Alan's been defensive. It's not going well. I almost felt sorry for Alan Pembroke. Almost. Diane, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't defend yourself Tuesday. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just answer their questions honestly and let the numbers speak. The numbers are very loud right now. She was quiet for a moment. Then, you planned this, didn't you? Not the chaos, but the inevitability of it. I plan to protect myself, I said. Everything else is just cause and effect. Eleanor, if you ever want to come back, when they beg you to come back, I'll be the first one to welcome you. I smiled in the dark kitchen. I know you would. That's why I'm answering the phone. The following Monday, my phone rang at 6:47 a.m. unknown number. Richmond area code. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was from a number I didn't recognize, but the voice was unmistakable. Asterisk, Ms. Vance, this is Alan Pembroke, Jason's uncle. I'm calling because I think we need to talk before tomorrow's board meeting. I've reviewed the situation thoroughly, and I believe there have been misunderstandings. I'd like to discuss a resolution that acknowledges your contributions to this company. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. Asterisk. Misunderstandings. That was the word he chose. I called back at 9:15 after coffee, after a long walk, after letting him wait. Alan Pembroke's office. Eleanor Vance returning Mr. Pembroke's call. 1 second of silence. Then, Ms. Vance, thank you for calling back. Let me connect you. Click. Then Alan's voice, smoother than his nephew's, more practiced. The voice of someone used to boardrooms and country clubs. Eleanor, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. Mr. Pembroke, how can I help? He laughed. A short, humorless sound. I think we're past pretending you need to help us. You've made your point quite effectively. I'm not sure what point you mean. Another pause. Longer this time. When he spoke again, the smoothness was slightly cracked. Eleanor, let's be direct. The company is in crisis. My nephew was placed in a role he wasn't qualified for. That was my error. I own that. But the situation now is damaging careers, good people who had nothing to do with the decision about your promotion. Diane Reeves. The compliance team. People who respect you. I waited. What do you want? Straight to it. No more dancing. What do you think I want, Mr. Pembroke? I think you want recognition. I think you want your position back, the director role, with appropriate compensation for the disruption. I think you want Jason removed. I think you want assurances this won't happen again. He was close. Not quite there. That's what you think I want, I said. What I actually want is simpler. And more expensive. Name it. I want a written acknowledgement, signed by you and the board chair, that I was qualified for the director role and passed over due to nepotism. I want that acknowledgement placed in my personnel file and read into the minutes of the next board meeting. Silence. I want a severance agreement equivalent to 3 years' salary, plus the value of the equity I would have received in the director role. I want it in writing by CB tomorrow. Eleanor, that's... I want Jason to be present when the board reviews the training records showing he never opened a single document I sent him. I want him to explain, in person, why he thought he could do a job he never bothered to learn. Longer silence. I could hear him breathing. You're not coming back. No, Mr. Pembroke. I'm not. The ship is sinking and I'm already on shore. You're calling to ask me to throw you a rope. I'm telling you the price of that rope. And if we don't pay it, then tomorrow's board meeting happens. The clients keep leaving. The compliance rating keeps dropping. And eventually, maybe next quarter, maybe next year, someone figures out that the CFO's nephew cost the company $20 million because his uncle couldn't admit he made a mistake. That's not my problem. I'll be somewhere else, doing work that matters, for people who understand what competence looks like. I let that land. Think about it, Mr. Pembroke. You have my number. The following Tuesday, I didn't attend the board meeting. Didn't need to, but I heard about it. Diane called me that evening. Her voice was different, lighter. The weight of the last month had lifted slightly. You won't believe it, she said. Try me. The board asked Jason to present the operations update. He brought printed slides. Someone asked about the freight protocol losses, and he said, I swear to God, he said the system was designed by someone who didn't document their work properly. I laughed. Actually laughed. Then Alan stood up and tried to defend him. Said you'd had adequate time to train Jason and that the failures were a shared responsibility. And Diane Reeves stood up in front of the entire board and said, that's not true. I've seen the training records. Jason never opened a single document Eleanor sent him. Not one. In 3 months. I closed my eyes. Savored it. The room went silent. Alan looked like someone had hit him. Jason just sat there with his mouth open. Then the board chair asked to see the records. Diane pulled them up on the screen. Color-coded. Date-stamped. Read receipts that never came back. It was. Eleanor, it was beautiful. And Jason resigned by the end of the day. Alan's on administrative leave pending review. The board chair called me into her office and asked, point blank, what it would take to keep the operations division from collapsing completely. What did you say? I said we needed someone who actually understands the systems. Someone the clients trust. Someone who's been doing this job unofficially for years anyway. I waited. She asked if you'd consider coming back as interim director of operations while they conduct a formal search. I told her I'd ask. But I also told her, Diane paused. I told her you'd probably say no. And that if you did, it would be their fault, not yours. I smiled in my dark kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd ignored so many calls, saved so many voicemails, planned so carefully. You told her right. Eleanor, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking, what do you need? What would make this right? I already told Alan. 3 years severance. Written acknowledgement of what happened. And Jason's training records entered into the official minutes. That's it? You don't want the job. I want the job I should have had 6 months ago, Diane. But I don't want it from them. Not now. Not after watching how easily they'd throw me aside. I want them to know what they lost. And I want them to pay for it. Diane was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. I'm going to miss working with you. I'm going to miss working with you too. But I'm not going anywhere. Richmond's a small town. We'll have coffee. We'll watch what happens next from a safe distance. Eleanor. Yeah, you're the most dangerous person I've ever met who's never raised their voice. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. 6 months later, I sat in a corner booth at a small restaurant in Shockoe Bottom, watching Diane walk through the door. She spotted me immediately, smiled, slid into the seat across from me. You look good, she said. Retirement agrees with you. Not retired. Just selective. She laughed. Fair enough. How's the consulting? Profitable. 3 clients so far. All former competitors of Ethelred, interestingly. They heard I was available. Diane shook her head. I'm sure they did. The industry talks. I'm counting on it. She ordered coffee. I ordered tea. For a few minutes we made small talk. Her kids, my garden, the general state of everything. Then the conversation turned as I'd known it would. So, Diane said, you've heard. Bits and pieces. Tell me the rest. She leaned back. Where to start? Jason's working at a car dealership. His uncle's friend owns it. He sells luxury vehicles to people who don't ask too many questions. Last I heard, he'd tried to explain the financing options to a customer by saying they could leverage their equity bandwidth. The customer went somewhere else. I smiled. And Alan? Retired. Early. The board made it clear his future was limited. He's got a consulting firm now, Executive Advisory Services. No one's calling. The board chair. Resigned last month. New leadership. They're trying to rebuild, but... She shrugged. The numbers aren't pretty. We've lost 23% of our client base. The compliance rating is at 54%. The freight protocol is still in safe mode because no one knows how to reset it without breaking something else. You could hire someone. We could. We will. But it's going to take time. And money. And trust we don't have any more. I sipped my tea. Said nothing. Eleanor, I'm not asking. I know you're not coming back. But I need to know, was it worth it? All of this. I set the cup down. Looked at her. Really looked. Diane, for 14 years I gave that company everything. I built systems that made millions. I saved clients that would have left. I fixed problems before anyone knew they existed. And they replaced me with someone who couldn't define logistics. She nodded. Waiting. When I sat in Margaret's office and listened to her tell me about synergy realignment, I had a choice. I could get angry. I could cry. I could beg. None of that would have changed anything. They'd already made their decision. The only question was what I did next. And what did you do? I decided that if they were going to treat me as disposable, I'd let them discover what disposable actually meant. Not out of revenge. Out of honesty. They needed to see the difference between someone who does the work and someone who just occupies the title. And now I have 3 clients who pay me more than Ethelred ever did. I work from home. I see my daughter every weekend. My husband and I have dinner together at actual dinner time. I sleep through the night. I don't check email after 6 p.m. Diane smiled. Small. Sad. So it worked out. It worked out because I planned for it to work out. Not because I got lucky. Not because they saw the light. Because I saw the possibility years ago and built the off-ramp while I was still building the systems. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what do I do? At work, I mean. How do I fix it? You don't. Not alone. You let the new leadership figure out that competence isn't optional. You document everything. You protect your team. And you remember that no company deserves your loyalty until they've proven they deserve it. That's cynical. That's experience. There's a difference. She laughed. Shook her head. I miss working with you. I miss working with you too. But this, I gestured at the table, the restaurant, the space between us. This is better. Friends don't have to pretend the systems work. No, she said softly. They don't. We talked for another hour. About nothing important. About everything that mattered. When we hugged goodbye on the sidewalk, she held on an extra second. Take care of yourself, Eleanor. I always do. A year later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, you were right. I opened it. Ms. Vance. Asterisk, you don't know me. I'm the new director of operations at Ethelred. I was hired 4 months ago to fix what's broken. Asterisk. Asterisk, I've spent the last 120 days going through the systems you built. Meridian. Apex. The freight protocol. Every one of them is elegant. Functional. Self-sustaining as long as someone who understands them is in the room. Asterisk. Asterisk, no one in the current organization understands them. Not really. They've been running on your architecture for years without knowing it. And now that you're gone, they're discovering that architecture requires maintenance. Knowledge. Care. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm writing because I wanted you to know I see it. I see what you built. And I see how they treated you. Asterisk. Asterisk, I can't fix the past. But I can make sure the future is different. I've already started documenting everything. Cross-training everyone. Making sure that no single person's departure can ever cause this kind of collapse again. Asterisk. Asterisk, that's not a criticism of you. It's a recognition that you were holding up a roof that should have had more pillars. That's not your fault. That's theirs. Asterisk. Asterisk, if you're ever in Richmond and want to see what I've done with your systems, you'd be welcome. No agenda. Just respect. Asterisk. Take care. Marcus Webb. I read it twice. Smiled. Didn't reply. Some things don't need a response. Some things just need to be witnessed. 3 years later, I'm sitting on the same back porch where I ignored Jason's first voicemail. The birds are still loud. The coffee is still good. My daughter is in college now, calling me every Sunday to complain about her professors and ask for money. My husband retired last year. We travel. We read. We laugh more than we used to. I still consult. Selectively. Lucratively. I've turned down 3 offers from former Ethelred competitors who wanted me to rebuild their operations. Not because I'm loyal to anyone, because I don't need to prove anything anymore. The severance check arrived 8 days after my conversation with Alan Pembroke. The written acknowledgement went into my personnel file exactly as requested. Jason's training records are part of the official board minutes, permanently archived, a monument to what happens when you mistake family connections for competence. I heard through Diane that Jason left the car dealership after 6 months. Something about creative differences with the financing department. He's in real estate now, last I heard. Selling houses to people who don't ask too many questions. Some things don't change. Alan's consulting firm folded after 2 years. No one's calling because no one forgot what happened. The industry talks. The industry remembers. Ethelred is still there. Smaller. More careful. Marcus Webb runs operations now, and from what I hear, he runs them well. He built those pillars I never had time to build. The roof won't collapse if he leaves. That's how it should be. Diane and I have coffee every few months. She's the VP of something now, I can never remember the title. What matters is she's happy. Respected. Still fighting the good fight, but with better armor. And me? I'm 50 years old. I've got a garden that actually produces vegetables. I've got a husband who still makes me laugh. I've got a daughter who calls every Sunday, even when she doesn't need money. I've got more money than I need, more time than I know what to do with, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that when they tried to discard me, I didn't fight back. I just let them discover what they'd thrown away. If you've ever felt invisible in a job you're holding together with sheer competence, if you've ever watched someone less qualified get promoted over you because of who they know, if you've ever wondered whether standing your ground is worth the risk, I hope this story shows that it is. Not because revenge is sweet, because self-respect is necessary. I share workplace strategies and corporate analysis every week that help you navigate professional betrayal without losing yourself. Like and subscribe if you found value here. And if you're sitting in a meeting right now, watching someone misuse jargon they don't understand, remember, you're not powerless. You're just planning. And they have no idea what you're building.